Hi everyone, welcome to the Robertson Media Center Creative Challenges. For this challenge, we'll be creating a moving, collage-based social media video advertising a fictional brand of your creation. We'll be using a few beginner tools in Adobe Photoshop. The demo and provided files create a video that advertises a fictional hiking gear brand that you'll have to name, but you can also use these tools to create a brand of your choosing. This three-step process will be completed entirely in Adobe Photoshop. You'll take 4 photos, you'll cut them out, add text, animate, and then export your final file. If you don't have Adobe CC on your own device, it's free to use on the RMC computer labs after creating a free Adobe ID. This is step 1, where I'll show you how to select and mask layers and to collage them together into a single image. Let's get started. This is ultimately what we're looking for, so let's watch this real quick. Pretty simple. It is a social media or a short video introduction kind of graphic for a fictional hiking gear company. And you, of course, can change your name listed there. You can change it to whatever you want. It could even be a different type of company that you could use for your portfolio. So we're going to show you how to make this particular thing using only Adobe Photoshop. And even within Adobe Photoshop, we're just going to stick to a couple very easy tools to get you up and running. Those tools are Quick Select and Masks. Then we'll be adding text. And then we will animate and export. But today, for step 1, we're going to cut out those photos. We're going to select them with a tool called Quick Select. And then we're going to remove the background using masks. So if you haven't already, go ahead and download the photos that we provided or photos that you'd like to use that you have found yourself. All of our photos are found in Unsplash. You can see the credits on the assignment page. But let's open the program. Close this down. So this is what this looks like when you first open it. This here is the default workspace called Essentials. If you go up to Window, Workspace, you can see that this is the default. I don't like this panel over here, so I always either minimize it or you can drag these into a different panel, which is what I like to do. So that's completely gone, and I can see a lot more of my canvas. So this is the final image. Let's create a new one. So File, New. And here you can see you have up on the top bar a lot of options. So for this, I am choosing Film and Video, and I'm going to choose HGTV. You can choose a different size. For instance, if you plan to only have this on Instagram, you may want it to be a square size. I want this to be flexible to use on all kinds of platforms. So I'm going to choose HDTV 1080p and say Create. You can see these blue lines here. These are just guidelines to show you as you're getting close to the margins, sort of like on a page you might have a bleed. On video, some screens you might lose some of the detail around those edges. So just make sure that nothing really important is beyond that. It's called the safe margins. So let's bring in our photos. As you can see, I just drag and drop. And then I have this edit mode that I can resize right away. And I say, oh, I want that up over here. And then I hit Enter to accept. And then I can bring my next one in. Let's grab this one here. Hit Enter. This one. Hit Enter. And this one. And hit Enter. Let's rearrange these to be in the order I want. I know I want the hiker up front. So as you can see over in this Layers panel here, I have all the things I brought in and a background layer. Now, we won't really need the background layer because we're going to create our own. But I want to drag this one up. You can see I can just click on the name and drag. I pull the hiker up top. And then I can minimize or hide this right here. And that takes that whole layer that I brought in and makes it disappear, but I can bring it back if I want to. Below that is actually this is the hill. That's good. Below that, I'll actually want the moon. That would be cutting out here. And below that is actually my background. Now, if you think about this as a frame, we're going to want this image filling the whole frame, and then we're going to have it move as we go through. So let me return to this layer. Make sure you have the correct layer selected, which you can check by turning it on and off with the little eyeball here. I'll want to use something called free transform to resize this image. So I always use Command T or Control T on a PC, and that's going to bring up all of those adjustment options. I can also make sure I have the correct layer selected, and I go up to Edit, Free Transform. Then I can grab this corner, and as you can see, it stretches, which is bad. So I want to hold Shift to keep it the same size so it doesn't stretch. And I resize it as big as I want. So I'll probably want it to start down pretty low. Maybe that. And I can grab this one and hold Shift, and then it stretches to fit the whole frame. Hit Enter to accept, and I have that one ready to go. Next, I'll bring up the hill. That'd be the easiest one to move from there. This one we'll want bigger as well, so I'm going to go back to Edit, Free Transform. Make sure, oops, see, I have the wrong image selected. So I'm going to go back and select this layer, which you can see is that layer. And I go to Edit, Free Transform, and I'm going to resize this image as well. And then I'm going to move it up. So it starts about that big. And I hit Enter to accept. So that's free transform. You need to use that to resize your images to be the size that you will need them. Next, I'm going to show you up over here, down 4 is called Quick Select Tool. The Quick Select Tool is an automatic tool that Photoshop has that enables you to make automatic selections based on what the computer thinks you want to select. And you can make adjustments, further adjustments from there once you are working with a mask. So if I click on this, you see I have this little plus. Anything I click with this plus is going to be added into the selection. So you can see these are called the marching ants. This means that everything within that is selected. So actually, I want this whole hill, but I don't want any of the sky. So I'm going to actually just click and drag, and you can click and tap if you'd like. Just make sure everything inside that hill is selected. And if you can see here, I could actually add a little bit more on the edge of the grass right here because it didn't quite grab everything. But that'll be close enough. If you accidentally click over, you can hold Option, or up here you can select this little negative, but I hold Option, and you see how it goes from a plus to a minus? That means I can remove things from my selection. So selection just means that, oh, I've selected this part of the image. You haven't actually done anything to the image yet. From a selection, you can do all kinds of things. You can paint only in the selection. You can remove everything around it. You can remove just the selection. What we want to do is we want to keep the grass, which is selected, and we want to remove everything else. And this is where we get to our second tool that we'll be dealing with. It's called a mask. So we have this image, which is all on one layer, right? On that layer, I can create something called a mask. And a mask simply takes whatever's selected and keeps it and removes everything else. So it's this little symbol right here. If I click that, you can see, oh, I have actually removed everything just with one click. You can see right here that this is what the mask looks like. You can disable it to see what the rest of the image looks like. You see that big X. So I'm going to right click here and enable it again. And that allows me to remove everything pretty quickly. Now, as you can see, I could deal with a little bit of extra tweaking. And if I double click on the mask, it comes up with this option. And this is where you can start to really refine your mask. The red here, as long as you have selected red here, the overlay, you might have something else automatically selected. I like overlay in the view mode. You can then turn on, for instance, Smart Radius, which allows the computer to adjust based on what it thinks you want. And then you have to create a small amount of radius, and you can see, oh, that automatically fixed that problem here. That is gone. The other thing is grass is kind of soft. So as you can see how this is a little bit of a harsh edge. I can introduce just a little bit of what's called feathering, just a tiny bit. And that is going to soften that edge. So if I went too far, you can see that's way too soft. I just want to add just a tiny bit of softness to this. And if you click OK, then it accepts. That's pretty good, actually. The wonderful thing about masks is that you can endlessly re-edit them. As you double click, you can see you can add more, you can change things, you can shift the edge, you can do other things. And if you want to get more advanced, you can actually paint in and out areas of this image with this mask. Rather than simply deleting something, which is a destructive act, this is endlessly tweakable. Okay, so let's quickly go through and cut out our other images. Quick select. I can adjust my brush size over here to reduce my brush size. And then I'm going to remove a few bits here. Okay, so let's say that I'm happy with that. Again, I come down to the bottom right corner and I add a layer mask. Again, I'm going to double click on the layer mask thumbnail here on my layer that I'm dealing with. And this time I'm going to turn on the smart radius and increase it a little bit more. And it did a really great job of clearing that up. Click OK. That's pretty good. I want to resize this hiker to make it seem like they're over here and they're really big, so it emphasizes as I'm moving what's called parallax, which is how much faster or slower the movement is if it's closer or further away from the camera. I'm going to go up to Free Transform, and I'm going to increase the size significantly. Okay, so maybe something like that. So looking out over this hill, I hit enter to accept, and you can see then it kind of crisps up that image. I'm going to do Command 0, Control 0 to look at the full image. Now we got one more. I'm going to turn this back on. I just want that moon. So now I need to select the moon. Let me bring this layer up, and I'm going to just click once, and that brought up a pretty good selection. Let me zoom in just to double check. I think that looks pretty great. Especially once we do the smart radius. So now I'm going to click on Add Layer Mask. Looks pretty good, maybe a bit soft. So I might go to smart radius and increase that. And that just took care of all of those problems. And I click OK. Looks great. Zoom back out. And this moon will drop in once the sky is up here. We just need to make sure it's cut out and in the composition so that we can pull it in when we need it. Okay, that's all for step 1 except for saving. So just make sure you go to File, Save. You save it in a good location, and we can return to it to do the next 2 steps.